Very good evening and welcome to Saturday Sport Classified here on Manx Radio AM 1368 and crystal clear DAB. Another jam-packed day of sporting action in football, rugby and hockey across the Isle of Man and beyond. We're going to bring you all the final scores and all the analysis from our usual posse of correspondents, I should say. Tony Mepham, Ben Cunningham and Dave Christian throughout the next hour or so. But first off, let's bring you the classified sporting results across the Isle of Man for Saturday the 28th of October 2023. Starting with football. The Canada Life Men's Premier League. Union Mills 1, Russian United 1. Ramsey 2, St John's United 0. Laxey 1, Ayr United 2. Braddon 2, St Mary's 5. St George's 1, Corinthians 6. Moran 0, Peel 4. DPS Limited Division 2. Douglas District vs Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys awaiting result. Maloo 1, Foxdale 3. Onken 10, Governors Athletic 1. Castletown 5, Michael United 3. Pulrose 1, Jims 5. Canada Life Combination 1. Russian United vs Union Mills postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. St John's United vs Ramsey awaiting result. Ayr United vs Laxey, a home walkover to Ayr United, Laxey unable to field a team. St Mary's 4, Braddon 1. Peel 0, Moran 3. In DPS Limited, Combination 2. Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys 9, Douglas District 2. Foxdale vs Maloo postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Governors Athletic 4, Onken 6. Michael vs Castletown awaiting result. Colby 4, Douglas Athletic 3. And in the North West Counties Football League Premier Division, Wythenshawe FC 1, FC Isle of Man 2. Turning now to the classified results for Manx Rugby. The Cheshire Bowl. Oxton Parkonians 15, Southern Nomads 38. In the Ravenscroft Manx Shield, Ramsey 57, Western Vikings 0. And turning now to Manx Hockey. The England Hockey Men's Tier 2 Knockout Championships. Isle of Man Men 3, Timpley Men's Seconds 5. The Mixed Premier League. Vikings B 3, Harlequins A 0. Backers B 4, Ramsey A 3. In Mixed Division 1. Valkyries B 6, Castletown Camags 1. Castletown Southerners 3, Valkyries C 0. Vikings C 0, Backers C 1. In Mixed Division 2. Castletown Cushags 0, Vikings D 5. Valkyries D 1, Backers Colts 2. Vikings E vs Ramsey Ravens awaiting result. In Mixed Division 3. Backers D 3, Castletown Carrick 1. Castletown Cosney 0, Harlequins B 5. And finally, Harlequins C 1, 7, Ramsey Rookies 3. Those are your classified sporting results across the Isle of Man for Saturday the 28th of October 2023. Well, plenty to get through as usual throughout this evening, so let's turn our attention to football to start with as we usually do, and it's high time he's battled against the wind and rain over at Gary Moore today during the Saturday Live programme with Paul Moran covering the Union Mills Russian United game in the Premier League, and he's back now in the warm and cosy studio. Good evening, Tony Mepham.
Yeah, I heard you and Paul laughing at me. Yeah, it was pretty rough up at Gary Moore throughout the afternoon. It wasn't sort of the nicest place to be, but good game of football, and we're drying out now, Rob. We're okay.
Excellent. Well, let's start taking a look through the Canada Life Men's Premier League results then. We'll start with the game that you were at covering today over at Gary Moore. Union Mills up against Russian United. Union Mills, as we also mentioned yesterday, a bit of a checkered run so far this season. Russian United just trying to find a little bit of momentum to take themselves away from the bottom of the table. And it's ended all square at Gary Moore today. Tony, Union Mills 1, Russian United 1.
Yeah, probably a little bit of disappointment for both teams, to be honest with you, because in the first half there was sort of plenty of chances, but I think Union Mills had a better in the first sort of 10-15 minutes, but certainly when Russian took the lead, they could have had 2 or 3 chances at it, really, because it was Joe Reid had the first chance. It didn't happen. Then Aaron Hawley had a go. Then Stevie Rydin had a shot, and the ball came loose to Joe Reid, and he finished it off to give them the lead. And Russian then sort of settled themselves a little bit, and 1-0 it was at half-time. Second half, Uni Mills just thought that they could probably take the game to Russian. Again, chances both ends. I think it speaks volumes, Rob. My personal man of the match was Mason Prince, the Uni Mills goalkeeper. I thought he was superb, some of the point-back saves he had to do. But the goal, the winner, came, and I'm just glad he didn't get hurt, because it looked as if Luke Booth, when he went off, was going to stay off, but he came back on. And he scored an absolute peach, Rob, in the last 5 minutes, because it was on that left-hand side, and that trusty left foot of his, just on the edge of the 18-yard box, tight angle. He absolutely hit it perfectly, and Dean Kern stood no chance, and into the goal it went, 1-1. And then in the last sort of minutes, good cross in from the left-hand side for Russian, and excuse me, Russian and Uni Mills. Russian attacked it, Uni Mills defended it, and clash of heads. Glad to say no one got hurt, and the restart within a minute, the game was finished, and it finished up Uni Mills 1, Russian 1.
Excellent. Well, before we move on with the rest of the Premier League, we have had the 3 results we were waiting for. Thank you very much for texting in the last couple of moments. We'll start with the result that we had outstanding in DPS Limited Division 2. It was Douglas and District 2, Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys 1. Douglas and District 2, Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys 1. That's me reading that text wrong, so apologies for that. 2-1 to Douglas and District in that one. The other games we were waiting for as well came in the combination leagues. Canada Life Combination 1, St John's United 1, Ramsey 5. And over in DPS Limited Combination 2 as well, it finished Michael United 4, Castletown 1. Thank you very much for sending those in. We'll get to those in a few moments' time. For the time being, we'll head back to the Canada Life Men's Premier League. And over in the north of the island, Ramsey, after that narrow defeat in the top of the table clash against Ayr United last week, they were back on home soil at the Ballaclone Stadium against St John's United side, who picked up a big 3 points last week against Union Mills. Ramsey, maybe with a bit of expectation on them, Tony, but they've managed to get themselves the job done today. They've beaten St John's United by 2-0.
Yeah, they did, and don't shoot the messenger, but evidently Ramsey were lucky. That's the information we got through when the score was put through. Dylan Pickles with one, Matthew Montgomery got the other one, and finished up Ramsey 2, St John's 0. And Ramsey, I'm certain, will be happy enough with the points. It keeps them in touch at the top of that table.
If that is the case, that it maybe wasn't their greatest game, Ramsey, does that maybe show a bit towards their character, though, that even if they're only getting into second or third gear, or just not quite at 100%, I guess, that they're still grinding out a result like that?
You play sport, Rob. You know what it's about. It's on the day. And certainly Ramsey, to me, have shown enough this season so far, because they've played 8 games now, that they're right in contention for this Canada Life Premier League 23-24 season. And today they've come across a stubborn, if you like, St John's side, who kept grinding away. They couldn't get a goal themselves, couldn't help anything to stop them. Dylan Pickles scoring, Matthew Montgomery. But overall, from the information we got, was that St John's looked the better of the two teams.
Very well. Then we move over to Glen Road. Laxey taking on Ayr United. Ayr United, they went into this game with 7 wins from their opening 7 games. The perfect start and top of the table. And it is now 8 wins from 8 in a tricky encounter over at Glen Road. It finished Laxey 1, Ayr United 2, Tony.
Yeah, it was always going to be. And I think it was Laxey who took the lead. And nice to see him. He's been quiet this season, to be honest with you, Ethan Hawley, because last year he had a tremendous season and got himself training with the Ireland squad, and he's only a young lad. He's only, 17 years of age, and important goal for him. He's been struggling with an injury, but Jamie Callister got the equaliser for Ayr United, 1-1, and then Jed Fisher scored late on in the second half to take all the points up to Andreas, and Ayr certainly are, at the moment, running away with the top of the table.
Okay, and then we move out to Victoria Road, back to Douglas area. Braddon taking on St Mary's. Braddon, it's been a tricky start to life in the Canada Life Men's Premier League after promotion last season, up against the St Mary's side that are still looking to try and keep tabs on the likes of Ayr United and Ramsey toward the top of the table. And St Mary's getting the job done today at Braddon. Didn't have it all their own way. They beat Braddon by 5-2.
You're right, and St Mary's just keep chipping away, and they want to win this league. And at the moment, Ayr United have got that points difference between them. But today, Josh Evans, who I think is having a superb season for St Mary's, he got 2. Joe Berquist got 1. Owen Canopy, he got the first of the game. And Nay Halsall got his 5th of the season. Callum Holdham pulled one back for Braddon. And then Dylan Barton scored from the penalty spot for Braddon's 2nd, but couldn't do anything to stop St Mary's taking that result. St Mary's 5, Braddon 2.
We'll just interject on the footballing side again just for a moment, because in the last couple of moments we've had another hockey result in that we were waiting for in Mixed Division 2 between Vikings E and Ramsey Ravens. It's finished Vikings E 3, Ramsey Ravens 1. We'll be going through all the hockey analysis with Ben Cunningham later on in the programme. Let's head back into the football side of things and out to Glencrutchery Road. St George's taking on Corinthians today, and for St George's another challenging day for them up against a clinical Corinthians side. St George's 1, Corinthians 6.
Yeah, I feel sorry for St George's at the moment, because they've been the team that's dominated Manx football, and at the moment struggling big time. And it started quite well for them, because I don't know when the first goal went in, but I think it was a while from what I was hearing. But Josh Ryding's super show by him, he got 2. João Marquez got a couple of goals as well, and Josh Kane, who was a St George's player last season, got 2 goals, and he also missed a penalty, so a hat-trick went to bay for him. I haven't got St George's goal scorer, but it keeps Corinthians in contact with the teams at the top to qualify for the Railway Cup, which is the halfway stage of the season.
And that is going to be a key consideration for a couple of these teams. Like you say, Corinthians may be included in that category, that bracket, I guess, that there will be eyes on Railway Cup promotion, because it is quite a glorious piece of silverware to have if you can win it.
It's a magnificent piece of silverware, and I think it's a great date for a game of football. I love Boxing Day. I love watching the Railway Cup final, and then just go and talk about the game and see the Premiership scores on that day as well. And you can have a few beers after Christmas Day. But at the moment, when you're looking at it, those top 6 sides, because I think it's going to come from there, which is Ayr United, St Mary's, Ramsey, Corinthians, Peel and Laxey. It's going to be tough, I think, for Laxey. I know they've got a game or 2 games in hand on the teams around them, but Corinthians have still got some top sides to play. Ayr United, I think, are looking pretty safe. So are St Mary's, because Ayr have only got 4 games to play. Ramsey, a bit of a blip against Ayr when they dropped them points, and I think they've got easier games to play. But Peel's the one for me, who have just now found great form, good results today and good results last week. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about before we get those 4 teams for Boxing Day.
Plenty of questions still to be answered in the coming weeks. So rounding off the Canada Life Men's Premier League today, it was a bit of a Western derby out of the Memorial playing fields. Moran versus Peel, a tricky season so far for Moran. Maybe just trying to hope for something to ignite their season up against the defending champions Peel. But Peel having none of it today, and a comprehensive win today by 4-0. Yeah,
and it was all down to one man, Taylor Andrews. Well done there, Taylor. Hat-trick for him. Paul Whitehead it was who got the first of the game. Don't know when the last time Taylor scored a hat-trick. He'll let me know sometime, I'm sure. But it was a terrific result, an important result for Peel.
OK, then we move into DPS Limited Division 2, and one of the results we got in a few moments ago, Douglas and District taking on Rams Youth Centre Old Boys. 2-2 it finished.
And it was a good battle as well, and it's their first win of the season, Douglas and District, 1-0 up at half-time. Richard Radcliffe, Dan Robson and Tom Sims as well. Did he get? No, he didn't. He was the keeper. Man of the match performance by him, and saved a penalty as well. I think Richard Radcliffe got the first. So good result for them. Haven't got Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys goal scorers. So if you could text us through, please, 166177.
Well, we mentioned the perfect start that Ayr United have had in the Canada Life Men's Premier League now with 8 wins from 8. Well, an equally impressive perfect record in Division 2 goes to Foxdale at the moment. They are now 7 wins from their opening 7 games, and at least temporarily go to the top of Division 2 ahead of Colby, who didn't have a game today. Foxdale, a hat-trick from Jay Chatwood. Foxdale beating Maloo 3-1.
Yeah, Jay Chatwood's absolutely flying at the moment, scoring plenty of goals since he's come back playing football. Deservedly so. He's a good finisher, and he got all 3 for Foxdale today. So as you rightly say, they go top of the table. Haven't got Maloo's goal scorer.
And then Onken versus Governors Athletic, a tough day at the office today for Governors Athletic, up against a really ruthless Onken side today. Onken 10, Governors Athletic 1.
Yeah, they're scoring plenty of goals, and it didn't take them long to get going today. And it was Jackson Gatt who got the first one, the second one and the third one. So a hat-trick in the first half. Then Barry English got his name on the score sheet. Aaron Christian got one. Lewis Dawson got a goal as well. And Jackson Gatt thought, I need another one here. So we got his 4th of the game, the 8th for Onken. And then Aaron Christian got the 9th and the 10th. We haven't got Governor's Athletics goal scorer.
All I do know from Governor's Athletic is there was a penalty that was scored. We don't have the penalty scorer yet, though, I'm afraid. Over to the south of the island, and a game that was tipped by a few people to be an interesting one, and boy, did this turn out to be an entertaining one. Two of the maybe promotion hopefuls, possibly, if you'd like to call it that. Castletown hosting Michael United in a really topsy-turvy game over there at the Castletown Stadium. The hosts coming out on top 5-3, Tony.
Bit of a match report on this one, Robert, for me, and thanks to Dean Turton for putting this through. Town started well, but Michael grew into the first half after the first 10 minutes. Kieran Lane then gave them the lead. That's Castletown 1 up with a good finish, and they carried on to be more threatening. Castletown equalised dead on dead on half time after a fortunate decision from the referee. Second half started quick with Liam Kane scoring from the spot. Nathan Cardy then levelled with a volley after a clever free kick from Alex Crawley. The latter then scored from the spot to give Castletown the lead. With a bit of an afterwards, Nathan Cardy went down on his knees, slid in front of the Michael dugout, and obviously they weren't too happy about that, and whatever went on, it went on. But Danny Lane then got done well in the break into the box. His shot was saved, and Nathan Cardy tapped home the rebound. Castletown then let their foot off the gas, and Dylan Parrish got sneak one back to make it a tasty last 10 minutes, right at the death. Owen Kamada made it 5-3 to Town with a deft finish. Great game for the neutral.
Well, we've already spoken about Foxdale being top of Division 2 at the moment, but Castletown and Michael United were in and around that battle looking for those promotion spots last season. Michael just losing out on the final day. In fact, seeing Braddon getting promoted instead. Do you think, come the end of the campaign, there's still a lot of football to be played, of course, but these two teams might be in and around that area later in the season?
Yeah, I think so. We touched on it at lunchtime with Paul. Colby had a great start. They played the first 6 games and won the first 6. But once they've come across the big boys, it's been more difficult to get the points. Foxdale, as we've said so many times before, once the weather comes in and they have a few little problems with the pitches, they fall behind a little bit. But at the moment, hopefully it's good because they've done some great work on that ground, Foxdale. But Michael United and Castletown were absolutely gutted last season because Castletown were fancy to win it. And, Michael were right up there. Liam Kane, so important for them to score the goals. But the relegated side, Onken, are looking really strong, Rob, and scoring plenty of goals. And I think it's a right good battle going on. I think it's between them 5. I know Ramsey Youth Centre picked up a win today. They got a defeat today against D&D. But I think they're out of it. And the one I keep looking at is Old Boys. But they haven't had the greatest of start. But I think it's between those 5 to get promoted.
Very well, and last but certainly not least in DPS Limited Division 2, Pulrose 1, Jims 5.
Yeah, and I just thought Pulrose would win this one, but great performance today by Jims. Kieran Horrocks got 2 goals, Daniel Cooley got 1, Matthew McEwen and Shane McCormack, and it was 3 goals for Jims, obviously, in the last 8 minutes, so that's what sealed it. Brian Lowther got Pulrose's goal after 57 minutes.
Impressive. We then move into the combination leagues, and Russian versus Union Mills, that was postponed. That was announced earlier today due to a waterlogged pitch. St John's United 1, Ramsey 5.
Any goal scorers, Rob? I haven't got any.
I haven't got any in front of me just at the moment. I'll just check to make sure we haven't had an update since then. We haven't at this point. Ayr United versus Laxey. That was awarded as a home walkover to Ayr United, so 3 points to Ayr. Laxey sadly unable to field a team today. Then we move on to the early kick-off today at 1:45pm, and that was in combination 1, St Mary's versus Braddon. Good result for St Mary's here, beating Braddon by 4-1.
Yeah, they're going really well in this league, and Chris Downing's come in and scoring plenty of goals. He got a hat-trick today. Kieran Smith got the other, and it was Shearer, Adam Fair, who got the goal for Braddon.
And then, although the first team were unsuccessful against Peel, Moran getting a result against Peel today in the combination leagues in combination 1. Peel 0, Moran 3.
Yeah, good result. I know there's not much difference between them in the 2 leagues, but in the league positions, but I just thought Peel would have won this one, and Bobby Thorne got 1, Noah Dale Beaton got the other, and Rory Kerwick got the 3rd goal for Moran.
Then we move into DPS Limited Combination 2. Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys versus Douglas and District. Big win today for Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys, winning by 9-2.
Yeah, they're looking very strong in this league, Ramsey Youth Centre. They won it a couple of seasons ago, but Ross Langford, is it? He got 3. I think it might be Crawford. Yeah.
Crawford. Shane
Kermode, you're right in 2. You're a doctor. Looks like a doctor's right.
Kinraid.
Kinraid. And then it was Mark. Yeah, I'll let you read it because I can't read that writing. Here you go.
This is me doing our football correspondence job here. Okay, I will read it out with my handwriting, which is actually, just to balance this out, it is quite questionable sometimes. So the Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys goal scorers, it was a hat-trick for Ross Crawford, and then there were 2 each for Shane Kinraid and Mark McGlurg, and then there was another for Adrian Skrabucha and also Brandon Bignell as
Thank
well.
You. Well done. Top job.
And do we have any information on Douglas and District's goal scorers?
We've got Douglas and District's goal scorer or scorers. It was Jacob Preston and Brian Tongue, goal apiece for them, and Mark Quirk, who took a penalty for D&D, but unfortunately missed. I only say that because I know what Quirk is like. He's a good guy.
Okay,
so we've
fair enough. You can get this comment in this once because you know the fella. Foxdale versus Maloo, that was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. And then we have Governors Athletic versus Onken. That was played over at Colby. What a game this was. Governors Athletic 4, Onken 6.
Yeah, Brett Howson got 1, Matthew Pigeon got 1, Kieran Brown in 1, Tom Lancaster, and Joseph Waddington got the other one there for Onken. 10 goals in that game. Haven't got Athletics goal scorers.
And then over in the northwest, Michael United 4, Castletown 1.
Yeah, Cian Cotton got the goal for Castletown. I'm not too sure who scored for Michael.
And last but certainly not least, in Combination 2, rounding things off with Saturday's football fixtures, Colby 4, Douglas Athletic 3.
What a good game this one was. I haven't got Athletics goal scorers, but my old mate, Ollie Edge, well done, Ollie. He got 2 goals for Colby. Jack Skillicorn got 1, and Marty Venus Brown got the other one for Colby.
I've been told by a reliable source that with Ollie Edge's goals today that you owe him a bacon bap.
Probably is. Well, Ollie scored 4 now, so yeah.
I'm just the middleman on this particular message, but just thought I'd get that across to you.
I'll get you on, Ol. Don't worry.
Tony Mepham, thanks for that. We're not quite finished with football yet. We'll be moving on to rugby and speaking to Dave Christian shortly, but we'll quickly turn our attention to FC Isle of Man, who earned a big 3 points on the road today up against Wythenshawe FC. A double for Sean Doyle, his 4 goals now in 2 games for FC Isle of Man's number 9, 1 in each half, handing FC Isle of Man 3 big points up against second place Wythenshawe, who before this point had actually won their last 4 games in a row, one of the big hitters in the league. Well, after an important victory over at Hollowhedge Park today, I caught up at full time with FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones to get his thoughts on today's performance.
Very, very happy with the performance. We said to the players before the game, we'll leave the 3 points here and be happy if we have a really, really good performance. We had a very clear plan about how we wanted to play against them because we knew it would cause them trouble, and the players were just asked to commit to that plan and deliver that. And if we did, we knew we'd get a strong performance and it would give us a good chance of getting something out of the game. And they were excellent. Every single man in the squad who came onto the pitch, we've changed shape a couple of times to deal with what they're doing, and they've just delivered a great performance. And I'm so happy for them to have the 3 points in the bag coming back to the Isle of Man. So yeah, really, really happy.
After that first victory over them, you said it was the defensive display you were particularly happy with. Was that the same case today, or do you think FC Isle of Man brought a little bit more to the table, or had to bring more to the table for this one?
Yeah, I think, when you play a team so close to the first fixture, they can tend to think that they know you. And so we changed and made quite a significant change, really, just in terms of how we set up to make sure we were higher up the pitch and created more chances, and we certainly did that first half. And we had a shaky 10 minutes or so at the beginning of the game while the players got used to the pitches they were seeing when they were standing in different areas of the pitch. And once they got used to that, I thought we dominated the first half and could have scored 3 or 4 goals, but for their goalkeeper making some fantastic saves. So the last 15-20 minutes or so, we went back to the same formation as we played at the Bowl because they made some tactical changes, and it was a bit more of a backs to the wall sort of performance for the last 20 minutes. But we knew that we'd done that for 90 minutes at home, so we knew we could see that out, and we did with some really good defensive displays, and still had a bit of a threat going forwards as well. So no, we were, as I said to you last time we spoke, we really wanted us to be on the front foot and positive, and we were, and it was a very kind of different performance today, which we needed to do, I think, because they were planning for us to play a certain way and we didn't. So really happy.
Paul Jones after his side's 2-1 victory away at Wythenshawe FC today that could see FC Isle of Man move up a couple of places in the NWCFL Premier Division table, and that's now 4 wins from their last 6 for FC Isle of Man. We'll briefly bring back Tony Mepham on this particular one. Tony, FC Isle of Man up against one of the big hitters in the league today and grinding out 2-1 win, 3 points and potentially moving up the table. Big confidence boost potentially for Paul Jones and his side.
Definitely, and you hear from Paul each time it's about consistency, and also they seem to play better, and they do against the better teams. You know, when you look back at Berry and others from last season, and you just think, you know, okay, try and keep it going, but they're climbing up that table nicely, Rob, and you know, even if they can't win it, if they can get into the playoffs, brilliant, and that'll be a massive boost for the players, because you know last week was a little bit tight at times, wasn't it? But they got it in the end. But today, to go away to one of the top sides and to beat them 3-1, and it's great to see Sean Doyle scoring on a regular basis, because we've missed him, you know, banging them in, and now he's started to put them in, and great result.
You've just brought me on to the next point I was going to make. Sean Doyle, 4 goals in his last 2. That's now 8 for the season for Sean Doyle. He now moves into the top scorer position for FC Isle of Man at this point with those 8 goals. Dean Pinnington, perhaps unlucky not to have got on the score sheet today, denied by some brilliant saves by the Wythenshawe FC goalkeeper, Kyle Haslam. And we talked about it on Saturday Live with Paul Moran earlier, is the fact that there seem to be goals from different areas. They're not relying on 1 or maybe 2 players. There seems to be options across the park that can deliver when it matters.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's probably Paul putting a style of play in now, because Dean Pinnington's come in and they're totally different. It's funny that Dean's come in and he plays that sort of similar position to Steve Whitley, and Steve Whitley's gone a little bit quiet, hasn't he, in scoring goals. He's playing well, but it's just one of those. But Charlie Higgins playing well down that left-hand side. Dan Simpson now is putting pressure on Charlie because he's back playing. And, you know, it seems to be all sort of coming together nicely. And it was great to see Mikey Williams play for Russian today, because there's another big plus for them if they need that tenacity and aerial powers in midfield. So, yeah, it's all coming together nicely for Paul. And let's just hope they can keep the score lines as FC Isle of Man fans want to see. And, you know, they can climb up that table and give someone the joys of singing and dancing about FC Isle of Man, because at the moment, you know, crowd-wise, it's been a little bit down, so it'd be great to see them crowds boost up to help the Coffers.
And FC Isle of Man will be back in action in just a few days' time away at Earlham, 7:45pm kickoff on Tuesday, the 31st of October. Tony Mepham, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, we turn our attention to rugby now, and 2 teams in action today, or 2 games in action, I should say, for Isle of Man sides. One of them involving 2 sides locally in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield, and also Southern Nomads on the road in the Wirral today in the Cheshire Bowl competition. And it's been happy travelling today for Nomads. Meanwhile, a rather one-sided scoreline today in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield clash between Ramsey and Western Vikings, and he's been waiting very patiently. We will now bring you with all the details our rugby correspondent Dave Christian. Dave, very good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening, Rob. Southern Nomads away at Usher Bowl, and they're bringing home the bacon. They're on the seat tonight. They'll be in a very joyous mood. So if you're on the boat, give them a clap on the back and say well done. They beat Oxton Parkonians 38-15 away from home this afternoon. A hat-trick in the first half from Django Kinley gave them a 21 points to 8 half-time lead. All 3 tries converted by Mark Young. Parkonians kept in touch with a try and a penalty, but in the second half, Nomads put their foot on the gas. The quick men got into action. Tony Quinn, Jacob Holstein and Harry Curran all ran in tries in the second half. Mark Young added a further conversion, and that put Nomads 31-8 in front as the match entered stoppage time. And at the end, Parkonians snatched the late consolation try, but as Johnny Mathis sung, it was just too little too late. Nomads have got 1 game left in the bowl competition. That's in a few weeks' time. They have an outside chance of qualification. The competition split into 2 pools, and the pool winners will play off in the final. Now, Nomads have lost away in their opening match to New Brighton, but picked up a very useful losing bonus point there. New Brighton have still got a game to play. If they win that, they're going to qualify anyway. But if they slip up and Nomads win their final game, Nomads might just pip them at the post. But it is an outside chance. I don't think New Brighton are going to slip up. They're up in one of the English Club Championships leagues, and the teams that are elsewhere in the bowl competition aren't always in the leagues. And as we've seen today, Southern Nomads and Oxton Parkonians are both non-league sides. So I suspect it will be New Brighton's pool to lose, but Nomads did everything right today. Maximum points on the road, and they've still got that outside chance of making the final. In the Manx Shield, a little bit of a different scoreline. The holders, Ramsey, beat Western Vikings 57-0. So Ramsey go top of the Shield table, but they've only played 2 games, so it is early days yet. But the other form side in the Manx Shield, the Southern Nomads, and Ramsey beat them 57-14 away at Nomads. So 57 appears to be the magic number for Ramsey. They've put 57 points past the opposition in both of their games. In the first half, it was a hat-trick from left wing Nathan Brew, and supporting tries from Connor Goodall and the captain Josh Catine, and 3 Brandon Atchison conversions. That gave Ramsey a 31-0 lead at half-time. In the second half, Catine picked up his second of the game, and in the closing stages, Atchison ran in a hat-trick of his own and added 3 more conversions. He finished the game with 24-point personal haul, which is excellent for him. He is the leading scorer in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield so far, but as I say, there are only 2 games played thus far, but Brandon Atchison with 44 points in 2 games, so he's going well this season, and we'll look forward to keeping an eye on him in the EnglandRugby.com national statistics, where he was the top scorer last season. That's all for this week. The other game, Southport against Vagabonds Ladies in the Papa John Intermediate Plate, that's been recorded on EnglandRugby.com as a home walkover. I don't think there's anything to be read into that, simply because there's an awful lot of walkovers in this competition. I'm guessing that the competition isn't being particularly well supported, or even more walkovers in the results sheet this afternoon. So I think the competition may not be as popular as everybody thought it was going to be right at the start. But it's been recorded as a home walkover for Southport.
Well, just one quick question for you, Dave, before we let you go. One thing you mentioned, particularly with regards to the Manx Shield, Ramsey versus Western Vikings, of course, today. And Douglas and Vagabonds men, of course, there was a week off from the English Clubs Championships, meaning Douglas and Vagabonds weren't playing. One thing you pointed out, particularly with the Manx Shield, is that if a team may be struggling for players, you're encouraging players from other clubs to maybe help out. I mean, going forward, the Manx Shield, it is early days, but do you believe that this is a positive step forward to making sure these games go ahead and making sure that the rugby clubs on the Isle of Man and the domestic competitions get the game time that they want and need?
Yeah, I think, Rob, the 4 big clubs, I'm going to call them the 4 big clubs. We've got Douglas, Vagabonds, Ramsey and Southern Nomads. All 4 of those have more than 1 team, but not quite enough for 2. So there's always going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 extra players each week who aren't involved in the first team action but are able to contribute elsewhere. And we've seen back in the mid to late 2000s, Ramsey and Southern Nomads did a collaborative arrangement. They called themselves the Northern Spaniards. I mean, the 2 clubs are geographically as far apart as you can be on the island, Ramsey and Port Erin. But neither of them had enough for 2 teams. They thought they'd get their spare players and weld them together into this Northern Spaniard sort of setup, and it worked really well. And the players have made a lot of lifelong friends, and there's a number of first team players at both clubs now who came through that Spaniard setup, and they've got their own little Facebook page, I think. The Northern Spaniards, the team that God forgot, they call themselves. And I think they've even had some T-shirts done. So there's an awful lot of fun to be had in collaborative arrangements. And we've seen this afternoon there was a couple of pairs of Douglas socks on the field for Western Vikings. So that kind of support is continuing. I've seen Charlie Henthorne appear on the Western Vikings score sheet this season as well. He's with Douglas Rugby Club. So the clubs are working together to make sure that people can experience 15-a-side rugby. If we left it to individual teams, you'd end up with Ramsey and Southern Nomads every week, which isn't going to be much fun for everybody. So the bigger clubs have got to help out the smaller ones and to make sure everybody gets to play the game that they enjoy. And as I said, with that Spaniard setup, you make lifelong friends along the way. So, it's an extremely positive step. It has been happening over the years, on and off, in one way, shape or form or another. So long may it continue as well.
Dave Christian, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, last but certainly not least, this evening we turn our attention to Manx hockey, and amidst the latest gaggle of mixed hockey league fixtures, there was also a big headline act in the England Hockey Championships with the Isle of Man men's national squad in action in the Tier 2 Knockouts Championships. Taking a look at that and the mixed league results throughout today as well. We're going to bring him in for the first time this evening. A very good evening to Ben Cunningham.
Good evening, how are we?
Very well, thanks. Very well indeed. And an action-packed day as well for the fact that we have this England Hockey Championships game as well. But we'll dive right into it. Yep. Starting with the England Hockey Men's Tier 2 Knockout Championships. The Isle of Man men's squad, with a new coach at the helm, Neil Crowe, taking charge of his first game after his appointment was confirmed earlier this week. It's a tough task up against Timperley men's seconds, Timperley based in Manchester, coming over to the Isle of Man this afternoon. And what was a very entertaining game at the NSC. Sadly, no dice, though, for the Isle of Man men's squad, beaten by Timperley men's seconds by 5-3, Ben.
Yeah, and Andy Whiting got all 3 goals for the Isle of Man, but the report I've had through and from people that went down to watch the game was the Isle of Man did themselves proud, and Timperley were just really clinical and they were a really good side. But as you said, a 5-3 loss is a great performance, to be honest, for the Isle of Man. Just they've done themselves proud, and as all the reports have said, it could have been a different result on a different day.
And maybe that's symbolic, the scoreline, a little bit of just how clinical hockey can be at this particular level. You can be punished with the slightest mistake. You know, you as a hockey player yourself, myself as a past hockey player as well, knows this as well. There are fine margins in this particular game, and the fact that it was high scoring. From what you've heard so far, you know, was there a good intensity to the Isle of Man squad today? Yeah,
they said that the Isle of Man really they had their heads in the game, and they didn't drop their heads at all. They kept going right to the final whistle, and just unfortunately it just wasn't to be. And I'm sure Neil will be disappointed his first game in charge hasn't gone quite the way he wanted, but there'll be lots of positives to take from it and lots of stuff that they can take from it that they know they need to work on.
And just for a bit of clarity as well, looking forward out of this competition, but do we have the county championships coming up later in the season?
I think we do. I'm not too sure about that, but I will look into it and I'll get back to you.
Very well. Okay, let's take a look at the mixed league results throughout today. So just a reminder as well, there were 2 games from the mixed Premier League postponed from today. That is because of the Isle of Man men's team being in action today. And those teams that have had games postponed were Vikings A, Valkyries A, Backers A and Castletown Celts. Yeah. And Ben, could you just clarify for us again the fixtures, because they will be taking place next week?
Yep, so Valkyries against Vikings, that's going to take place on the 31st of October at 8:30 at the NSC, and then Castletown Celts against Backers A will be on the 1st of November, again at 8:30 at the NSC.
So Tuesday and Wednesday next week, both at 8:30 p.m. at the NSC. Thank you.
Hopefully no spooky going-ons.
Indeed. A Halloween fixture.
Oh.
FC Isle of Man have that as well on Tuesday as well. But that's by the by. Let's get back to hockey. The Mixed Premier League, 2 games today. One of them an early pushback, 11:05 at the NSC before that Isle of Man men's game. Vikings B up against Harlequins A, and 2 sides really looking for points here. Harlequins A promoted last season. Vikings B looking to maintain their status again in the Mixed Premier League, and it's Vikings B coming out on top today by 3-0.
Yeah, and Alex Andrews with all 3 goals for Vikings B. I caught at the first half of this game, and Harlequins for the last few weeks have been looking really good, but just today, the first half from what I saw, they just didn't seem like they were connecting, and I don't know what's happened, whether the players in a way because of half term or that, but Vikings look really clinical going forward, and they were stronger in the first half. I didn't see the second half, so I can't say what happened in the second half, but Alex Andrew with all 3 goals and a good win for Vikings B, and then it makes that bottom of the league really tasty.
Well, we're talking about towards the bottom of the league, 2 teams really looking for points as well. In the other game in the mixed Premier League at 2:05, pushed back up in the north of the island at Ramsey Grammar School, Backers B and Ramsey A, and boy was this a close one, but Backers B just edging it. Backers B 4, Ramsey A 3.
Yeah, Sam Franklin with 2, Reece Williams with 1, and Luca Pilato with 1 for Backers B. For Ramsey A, Nat Smith with 2, and Christina Kameen with 1. For Ramsey, they'll be disappointed with that. They knew they needed to get something out of this game, but as I said in my preview at lunchtime, if they didn't get anything out of this, the rest of the season could be a long road ahead of them. But they're looking, like 4-3. They've only just lost there, but they're still in with the fight, and who knows what could happen in the remainder of the season up to Christmas.
Yeah, still plenty of hockey to be played, but from Backers B's perspective as well, they were, looking for important points of their own, and to get that today, that must do them a world of good confidence-wise.
Absolutely, yeah. Backers B will be happy that they've got the points, and it helps boost them to avoid being the team that possibly could be fighting with Ramsey for that relegation.
Okay, let's move into mixed Division 1. There were 3 games today. One of those pushing back at 2:05. 2 others were later pushbacks at 3:35. We'll start with the earlier one. At 2:05, Valkyries B up against Castletown Camags out in the west at QE2 in Peel. And a really good result today for Valkyries B up against Castletown Camags. Valkyries B 6, Castletown Camags 1.
Yeah, and Valkyries B will be happy with that result, keeping the chase on Castletown Southerners, who are top. Neil Jacobs with 3, Flo Barber with 1, Ethan Adams with 1, and Steve Cottier with 1 for Valkyries B. And then for Castletown Camags, the consolation goal was by Eden McCubbin.
You mentioned Castletown Southerners there, up at the top of Mixed Division 1 at the moment. Valkyries B looking to claw back ground on them. So Castletown Southerners, they needed a response today. They were up against Valkyries C, also at QE2 in Peel today. And Castletown Southerners getting the job done. Castletown Southerners winning by 3-0.
Yeah, and I've got a little bit of a match report here. So the goal scorers for Castletown Southerners were Helena Allen, Corbin Stewart and Lucy Sutterby. And the report goes, excellent performance from the Reds in a competitive game against a strong Valkyries team who played very demandingly and were really tough to break down. It's now raining sideways and the pitch is underwater, so a well-timed finish game. But 3-0 win for Castletown Southerners, and that keeps them top of the league.
Got the whole game in before the weather closed in. We like to hear that. Yeah, the other 3:35 pushback then in Mixed Division 1. Vikings C against Backers C. A battle of the C teams at the NSC. Backers edging this one. Vikings C 0, Backers C 1.
And the winning goal came from Iona Bridges, and Backers C will be really happy with that result. As for Vikings C, it'll be a bit of a shame that they've dropped the points here after giving Castletown Southerners a good run last weekend. But they'll be wanting to make sure that they avoid being in that relegation battle.
Indeed. Well, let's move on to Mixed Division 2. 3 games there also today. The early pushback there was at 11:05 up down at Castle Rushen High School in the south of the island. Castletown Cushags up against Vikings D, who had an excellent start in Mixed Division 2 this season. And Vikings D continuing their recent trend of good results with a comprehensive 5-0 win over Castletown Cushags.
Yeah, Vikings D are absolutely bossing this league at the moment, and they're looking absolutely unstoppable by any team at the minute. No team's managing to stop them, their winning form at the minute. Andy Harding with 2, Kieran Masterson with 2, and Ashley Osborne with a solo goal for himself.
And then we move on to the 12:35 pushback at QE2 in Peel. That was Valkyries D up against Backers Colts. And Valkyries D, this is a frustrating trend that you were telling me about. Valkyries D losing out to Backers Colts by 2-1. I believe you said that's now the 3rd game that Valkyries D have lost by that scoreline.
3rd game in a row. Valkyries D have lost 2-1, and they'll be kicking themselves definitely, but I'm sure they'll bounce back from this. Russ Miller for Valkyries D, and for Backers Colts, it was George Leese and Nick Wilson.
And the other game in Mixed Division 2 saw Vikings E up against Ramsey Ravens at Ramsey Grammar School. And Vikings E desperately in search of points in this particular division, and they've got them today. They've got the victory over Ramsey Ravens, who were on home soil. Vikings E3, Ramsey Ravens 1.
Yeah, and Ramsey Ravens were second in this league, so we'll have to have a look at the league tables and see where this result has put them now. But Vikings E, they needed to get points today, and they've got it. Kyle Kane for Ramsey Ravens, and then Errol Smith and Jacob Harding. But in the report, I've got Jacob Harding scoring possibly one of the goals of the season contenders for Vikings Hockey Club, a top bins volley finish.
Wow, sounds pretty impressive. And then last but certainly not least in Manx Mixed Hockey today, we had 3 games in Mixed Division 3. Early pushback was at 11:05 at QE2 in Peel. That saw Backers D up against Castletown Carrick. Backers D, the winners on the day this time, 3-1.
Yeah, Castletown Carrick's goal scorer was Matthew Eels. And then for Backers D, it was Sophie Telford, Megan Neal and Christian Davies. And that keeps Backers D really, really doing well in this league. And I will admit it. I said at the start of the season they're a team that normally go just enjoy their game, and then after it they go for a nice social to the pub. But they're actually in this, and if Harlequins B slip up, Backers D could potentially take full advantage of it.
We'll have to wait and see. We could have an exciting battle on our hands at the top of Mixed Division 3 in the next couple of weeks. Well, continuing Mixed Division 3, there were 2 games that pushed back at 12:35 today. We'll start with the one at Castle Rushen High School. Castletown Cosney up against the aforementioned Harlequins B. Harlequins B did get the job done today, and a comprehensive win for them today up against Castletown Cosney by 5-0.
Yeah, and that keeps Harlequins B's 100% record still intact. Kerry Williams with 2, Callum Crellin with 1, Sam Clegg with 1, and Killian Dowling with 1. And like I say, keeps a 100% record up.
And rounding things off in Mixed Division 3 and for the Mixed Hockey League fixtures this weekend, 12:35 at Ramsey Grammar School. Harlequins C were up against Ramsey Rookies, and an emphatic victory from Harlequins C, 7-3.
Yeah, Ian Woods with all 3 goals for Ramsey Rookies, and then it was Addison Heaton, Caleb Blakemore, all with solo goals, and then some fella called Ben Cunningham got 5, but yeah, we won't talk much about them.
I've heard of this man's name being whispered around the hockey community there. But for Harlequins C as well, they've got their own B team in that particular league as well. What is the ambition for that Harlequins C side? Is it just to try and get the most respectable position possible? Are they targeting specific results against certain teams? Because if Harlequins B may be pushing towards the top of that division at the moment, what's the objective for the C team?
For that C team, definitely, I can speak on behalf of the club. That C team is to bring the junior players through. So they're going to become soon too old to be playing the under-15s league. So that C team is a way to bring them through and give them a taste of senior hockey. And today we had quite a few of the younger ones playing for that C team, and they've all grown in confidence. And by playing against senior players, I know it might look scary, a big tall senior person against someone who might be just 5 foot, but it gives them so much confidence going forward. And then, like you say, obviously Harlequins B are looking to get the promotion because they obviously missed out last season, but then Harlequins C have had a real good season, and potentially they could end up finishing maybe mid-table, or just maybe even potentially giving Backers D a run for their money.
When we talk about bringing younger players through, we haven't mentioned, of course, the Mixed Under-15s League, because they haven't played this weekend. Nope. They didn't play the previous weekend because it is the half-term break, but there is that system as well. And, of course, we've mentioned it on a couple of occasions this season. The Mixed Under-15s League has actually increased in the amount of teams that are there from a number of different clubs as well. It's not just one club providing all these different teams. There's a couple in there as well. So it seems as though, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ben, but there seems to be a nice ladder of development available at the different clubs. Is that the feeling between the different clubs, that there is that ability to progress through the different levels at the right pace?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's like you say, Rob, you've got 2 junior Castletown teams, you've got 2 junior Backers teams, 1 Vikings, 1 Harlequins, 1 Ramsey, and 1 Valkyries. And then when you look at the senior leagues, obviously Castletown have got 6 senior teams split between all the divisions. Vikings have also got 6 teams as well. Backers have got their mixture of teams. So yeah, the way that people are the clubs are bringing players through is brilliant because it builds them up and more confidence. And eventually, they might end up playing for the Ireland senior men's team or senior ladies team.
Well, just a couple more things before we let you go for the rest of your weekend. Let's talk about, again, the Isle of Man national team, specifically the junior squads. We saw the under-16s got a great result away at Chorley Phoenix in their particular competition a few days ago, so great to see them progress. There were other junior squads from the Isle of Man that were due to play back on the 8th of October. Their games were postponed on the 8th of October due to sailing disruption. Now, I do believe we have a couple more details, or you might have a couple more details to when those teams might be playing, because those fixtures do have to be rearranged, don't they?
So our under-18 boys are going across... let me just check. They're going across to play tomorrow. And the under-18 boys are against Neltons, under-18s boys. So we wish them well. As well as the under-16 boys are against Oxton, and they're going away tomorrow. The under-14s boys are against Disbury. And the under-14 girls, again, are away at Chester all tomorrow.
And we wish them all the very best of luck in their particular endeavours, all the Isle of Man junior squads going into the weekend. And just one final question for you, Ben. Just for those who didn't hear it before, it's been a couple of weeks without the Mixed Under-15s League because of the half-term break. Is the Mixed Under-15s League returning next weekend?
It's returning next week, as well as the semi-final stage of the Mixed Cup, Mixed Play and Mixed Bowl.
Perfect. Well, Ben Cunningham, thank you so much once again for your time. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to Dave, Christian and Tony Meppemar, correspondents throughout the day. And thank you very much for joining us here on this week's edition of Saturday Sport Classified on Manx Radio AM 1368 and Crystal Clear DAB. We'll now be handing back over to Christy DeHaven over on our FM frequency for Saturday Live Lounge. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we go, just to give you a bit of a reminder about the weather conditions this evening, a weather warning has been issued by Ronaldsway Met Office for this evening. A amber warning for coastal overtopping and harbour flooding. The areas likely to be affected are exposed coasts around the island, and that amber warning for coastal overtopping and harbour flooding is in place from 10 p.m. this evening, the 28th of October, until 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, Sunday, the 29th of October. And Ronaldsway Met Office is saying that the large spring tide at midnight tonight will occur in combination with strong easterly winds, resulting in fairly substantial waves breaking over exposed coastal areas for a few hours. Douglas, Laxey and Ramsey promenades will be affected, with stones, debris and sand brought ashore. Parking is not advised in these areas. Clean-up will be required afterwards. They also add that the sea height is likely to be high enough for a little flooding of inner harbours and quaysides in susceptible places. For example, the Tongue in Douglas and parts of Ramsey. Flood defences should be deployed, is the note from Ronaldsway Met Office there. So if you are out and about, particularly in those coastal areas this evening between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, please do bear that in mind, that amber weather warning for coastal overtopping and harbour flooding, and please do make sure you stay safe this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll now be handing over to Christy DeHaven. Until next time, from us here on Saturday Sport Classified, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.